Righteous Rebel Land. You may also be coming to us from LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you're joining us. Welcome. This is the May 17th edition of Live and Unscripted with your host, Jennifer Saunders, and our special guest today, Mr. Doug Crowe. Before we get going, for those of you who are new to our broadcast, this is just a fun conversation. It's something I started years ago as an actual podcast where, you do the interview and you go in, you do the cleaning up and the producing, and I didn't love all of that. And so now we just have live and unscripted conversations where we let inspiration be the guide. We start with one question and we just move from there. And so I'm excited today to have Doug be our guest, and you're bound to get lots of yummy nuggets out of this conversation, wherever it's going to lead us. We always start with a little bit of just breathing, just taking a few moments to get present so that you can lend your energy to the conversation as well. And you can let go of what's already happened in the day, and you can let go of everything you think is going to happen in the rest of the day, and you can be right here, right now. Typically, how we do that with just some simple breathing. And today we're going to keep it really simple. I'm just going to invite you to just breathe deep. And actually, as you do it, I'm going to invite you to breathe through your chest. So you can put your hands on, and as you breathe in through your nose, actually feel your chest and maybe even a little bit of your rib cage expand, giving room for your heart and your lungs to really have space to do their job. As you do this today, I'm just going to invite you to breathe in just something happy, something joyful. Maybe you've had some things in the day that just like a little bit crunchy, and we're just going to let them go. And so as you breathe out, just going to invite you to breathe out through your mouth. Feel your chest go back into a more contracted space, and then breathe again, allowing it to breathe out. Now, as you do this, what you're doing actually is you're allowing all the muscles in there in between the rib cage to just start stretching a little bit more. And again, giving your heart and your lungs more space to come into coherence, where then your mind slows down. You can be present in thinking and creation from a more present state. It's just yummy. So I'm going to invite you to do this with either closed eyes or downward gaze. And we're going to do it for just 30 seconds today. So breathing in, feeling your chest expand, and then breathing out through your mouth. All right, take that gaze, whichever is most comfortable for you, and just begin on your own. Let's go one more big deep breath. Beautiful. And when you're ready, feel free to open your eyes. Come back to just present moment and just notice how you feel. For me, I always feel my mind slow a little bit. I feel because I get excited when I get on here and to get into these conversations and to just see where they're going to take us. And sometimes I can, in my excitement, start speaking really fast. And I just love that feeling of feeling myself settle, of feeling today I'm standing. So feeling my feet really press into the mat that I'm standing on, feeling the expansion all the way around my body through my rib cage, and just feeling the slowness and the presence come to mind. So I would love to hear, what is it that you experience? How did taking 30 seconds, 45 seconds of breathing, how did it change your state, your presence of being? And then just remember that this is something that you can do many times a day, and that I encourage you and invite you to do so. And just notice what happens when you take just a few moments every day to just pause and breathe. Again, bringing that heart rate back into coherence, and just all the amazingness that it brings. So with that, let's get going. I love I've been really looking forward to this conversation. And so Doug is someone who, again, I don't know super duper well, but I know him well enough to know that he is, I call him Mr. Butter with words. The man knows how to speak. I originally met him in the Bahamas when we were in our preparation to go to India. He was also one of the speakers with our India friends. And I just appreciated his presence and his honesty of being, and the things that he had to say, and how he could take a situation and just, or an idea, and put it into words that are just like, seriously, they just like, it's like a hot knife through butter, just smooth and yummy. And oh, I love it. Doug, I'm gonna bring you on screen. Doug also has a brand called, I believe it's Author Your Brand. Did I say that right? There it is. And I know that you've just created a new one, and I'm not remembering the name.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
Doug helps authors write their books, and he does a lot of other things. I know he's a pilot.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah.
Oh, well, you put me on the spot here. The words like butter, like everything.
Words like
I'm gonna start stuttering left and right now. I'm like, blah, blah. Yeah, I have a publishing and ghostwriting company. We've helped, I don't know, several hundred people take their thoughts and experiences and ideas and values and desires, really, to craft a best-selling book out of it, and a brand that goes with it that they can monetize or use as a legacy or get more clients, or all of the above. So I've been doing that for about almost 14 years now. I spent 20 years as a real estate investor and developer. I got my degree in radio, TV, and film, and worked in the media world for a few years, and then went right into real estate when I had one of those gurus come on the set to be interviewed. I'm like, I'm making $3 here. I'm gonna do real estate. So I went real estate to publishing, pretty much.
Very cool. I don't think I knew that you did real estate. In all of our conversations, I don't recall that coming up. It was all about like adventures in flying and adventures in writing, and what you do there. And that was intriguing.
Oh, I have a lot of real estate adventures. I bought a convent once. I've done a lot of crazy things in real estate. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So yeah, I'm excited to start this conversation. I have in my memory the first time, like all those dinner meetings where we sat, and I got to hear you, and I got to hear your heart. And what I loved about all of the men that were a part of this group is I felt like they were men who had taken, like, they're the kind of men you want to have in your life. They're men who are not afraid to say, like, I screwed up. And not only did I screw up big.
Yeah.
And here's some things that I learned from it. And here's how I show up now. And I just loved their honesty. I loved that they have a tenderness about them. I mean, they're men, but they have a tenderness about them that for me is very inviting. And that's one of the things I loved about Doug. And then when we went to India, we had some really cool conversations and tender moments. And Doug's like a brother for me. And he may not know that, but Doug, you're my brother.
No problem. My honor, sis.
Thank you. So I'm excited to get this conversation going. So if you don't have any other thing you want to say to kick off, then I'm going to start with our first question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. I thought it was unscripted, so I just thought it would be like sex, politics, and religion. I thought we were going to go that route, but
I think
whatever you got.
I think we could cover all of those conversations and be just fine.
Go for it. I'm all yours.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Okay, that first question is, what were you like as a kid, and what did you want to be when you grew up? I guess that's two questions.
That's two questions. What was I like as a kid? I was, well, there was a couple phases. Prior to sophomore year in high school, I was the awkward, nerdy, second to last pick of gym class, scrawny, shy little boy who, was just at the bottom of everything. Just, a loser. Okay, let's just call it what it is, And then in sophomore year in high school, Junior Achievement came in to pitch their, hey, kids, if you want to learn how to run a business, come do this. 350 kids in our class. I'm the only one that raised my hand saying, yeah, I want to do that after school special. And go through Junior Achievement. And we created a product, sold stock. It was so much fun. But one of the perks of it was I got to be basically go through the Dale Carnegie course in human relations and public speaking. And from that point forward, I won a bunch of awards. I came out of my shell. I became president of class, homecoming king, BMOC shit. And can I swear in this? Is that right? I'm sorry. And
Unscripted.
and it was just a life-changing moment from being the Mr. Cellophane to big man on campus. So that was the two parts of my childhood. What I wanted to be, of course, growing up in the 60s, we all wanted to be astronauts.
Right.
It was watching the I was old enough to watch the Apollo moon landing from school. They brought the black and white TV in there and we got to watch it.
Wow.
And I had the models as a kid growing up. I built them all and we all made a restaurant. And I guess that's why I became a pilot. I didn't join the military because my eyes weren't good enough to do it, but I fly privately. That was my way of, fueling that passion.
I love it. So like, where did this, like, I want to ask, like, where do you feel like, because you said before your sophomore year, why did that just happen? There we go. Before your sophomore year that you used all these words, awkward, geeky, shy, a loser.
All that. Yeah.
Like as a young, like, were you like that as a young kid? Like, where do you feel like, why?
As far as I remember, because my brother beat me up every day, made me cry. I was a crybaby. I was weak. I was,
according to him, or
he's a pilot too. We're friends now. I'm just how brothers are. They're either like, it's not like in the movies. They're like, oh, I'm gonna die for my brother. No, they fight all the time. It's okay. It's his birthday today. I should be nice.
Oh, happy birthday, brother.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't the memories that long ago. I'm like, I have, key moments, but I was, they called me Nature Boy because I was a junior curator at this museum. I mean, I was big into, environment and bugs and astrophysics. And I was a nerd, I guess I'm still a nerd, but before nerds were cool, I was one when it wasn't so cool. So yeah.
Right. Very awesome. So, you're obviously not an astronaut, but you do fly.
I'm not.
I'm trying to think, like, you had this change at your junior year because you took the classes and the Dale Carnegie and you built products and sales. So how do you feel like that shifted into what you did in your like early 20s?
What
was that shift for you?
It was profound in every way possible. They say you're born with your personality, but I'm not sure that's exactly true. I think I developed a new one. And being, shy and awkward to being like everyone's best friend. I guess that's one of the key components of, in high school, there's cliques, right? There's the jocks, the freaks, all these different classes. And I was one of the, cellophane people. Like, who is that? Oh, yeah, some kid. I don't know. But when I've
never heard that term, cellophane.
I'm going through the movie Chicago, right? Mr. Cellophane. You're just like in the background. Nobody knows. It's like, there's 350 kids in my class. And in freshman, sophomore year, I knew like 10. By senior year, I knew probably 345 of them.
Wow.
So it was a shift of a lot of things. If you read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's gold about, there's no other self-development book you need, really. No other way to communicate other than to do what you're doing right now, which is talk to people and listen and show sincere interest in them and compliment people. Be nice. I mean, you need a book to learn that. I guess so, especially nowadays.
Some people do. Yeah.
But the profound change comes from the personality, my desire to get to know people that you normally don't care about or aren't in your friends list, and of course I love business at a young age, so that was probably part of it too.
So this question keeps coming to mind about this big shift. What do you think your classmates saw? Like, what do you think? I know you can't speak for them, but what would you think their experience was like? Wait a minute, that kid back there, cellophane boy, is now like.
It's just like he came on the scene, sophomore year. If you've seen the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that was me senior year. I had teachers that wanted to take me out. I mean, it was. I'm joking about that. It was. But no, I got away with like anything I wanted to in high school, a senior year, because I was, I was a suck up, goody two shoes. I don't know. I got along with everybody. And so even when we got in trouble, we didn't get in trouble,
What what was that thing inside of you that shifted, Doug? Like what? Because you know that we have somebody listening who one has probably experienced a similar thing or is in a space where they really would like to. Like, what do you feel like that shift? Because it's an internal shift. It's not something that happens from the outside. What do you feel like, especially at that age?
Yeah.
Like that's a really young age to recognize and to have that thing happen to you. But what are your thoughts on what that is?
Yeah, it's been summed up so many different ways in so many different books. The foundational element is taking a sincere interest in others. Period. That's it.
Okay. So how does one do that when they don't even necessarily have I'm making an assumption. Well, I'll just ask a question. Did you have a sincere interest in yourself? And how do you have a sincere interest in other people if you're this shy, awkward, geeky, loner, loser dude?
You have to come out of you have to come out of your shell a little bit. One of the exercises at the Dale Carnegie course is you got to make a speech every week. First of all, we memorize everybody's first and last name, 24 kids, all in the first hour and a half. And we do that from, some association techniques, pretty simple.
Right.
But then we have to give a speech every week in front of other people. And one of the core skills that people don't do nowadays enough, especially with the online world, is public speaking. Right. And when you speak publicly, you've got to be clear. You've got to have good diction. You got to convey a point. You can't be boring. And when you do that enough, you develop confidence in yourself. From the confidence, then if you just take the spotlight off of yourself and just think about other people. I look at the lens. I use a lens as a metaphor quite a bit. And I was thinking about this before we got online today. I'm like, you know what? I think what people see me, maybe what you see me, is that I look at you through my lens, not through your lens. Your lens has smudge on it and a little bit of rust on the edges and stuff. Mine is pure because I've just met you. So I see only what I want to look for. That's a clue right there. I'm not going to see the faults that you carry with you all day long, 24/7. I'm going to see, oh my God, this woman's got a most beautiful voice I've heard like in the past 20 years. I'm talking about you right now. You should sing on one of these things.
Thank you.
So, and then when we're chit-chatting, if I don't think about myself, which I try not to, I'm like, whoa, what's your story? Where are you from? I'm genuinely curious about other people. And Adam Grant said it best in one of his books about if you actually hold true to your values, but set aside your beliefs. Ooh. If you set aside your beliefs and say, you know what, I'm going to talk to that liberal social warrior for a minute, not because I want to try to convince them of anything, just because I'm curious about why they feel X, Y, and Z. And that can go for anything: politics, religion, sex, my three favorite topics, right? Money, flying, scuba diving, youth leadership. Okay, there's a lot. But anyway, the point is, if you're genuinely curious about other people, it's not easy to do because we always have our own smudges in the lens. We carry our own baggage with us. Like, wow, why do you think that? And why do you feel that? And well, I think this. I'm like, well, nobody asked you. I'm talking to myself right now. So if I don't give my opinion, and if I'm just curious about you, you get to talk about your favorite topic, yourself.
Right.
And as long as I'm engaging and ask good questions like you're doing, then it's a fun conversation. Both people benefit from that. The one person feels great because they had a chance to share their story. Yeah. And you feel great because you were the catalyst that made that happen.
Yeah. I think that was one of the things, it just is coming back to mind that I really loved about our conversations in the Bahamas is because I'm a full-on believer of being curious and asking questions. And that was something that you brought up quite often in conversation. And I love that piece. I love that piece of like, it's the piece that makes me feel a little nervous because I'm a little shy still. Like people don't know this, but I'm a little shy. I can feel like not super confident and like, oh my gosh, how am I going to have a conversation when in reality, I know that if I do what you just said and I get present and I lean into that space where I can feel another person and ask about them, like magic will happen. And I especially love doing that with people. I don't especially love it, but I love the outcome of doing that with people who who I feel a rub with, or I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is so annoying me right now. And I wish they would just be quiet. And, but if I find that if I will take myself and go up to them and say, hey, my name's Jennifer, blah, blah, blah. I've actually said, I'm finding the things you're saying. I have a rub with them and I want to know more. Can we just have a conversation?
Yeah.
Like 100% of the time, I am humbled.
Yep. Yep.
And I learn amazing things. And I come away like, wow, they actually had a message for me once I got past my damn self.
Yeah. It's so true. There's a, I don't know, give you the actual story that happened to me or a fictional one that I've read, but the point is the same. The happened to me was I was at a skating with our entire family and extended family, like 20 of us, and we're going to this roller skating rink, and the ticket agent was really rude, really rough, not nice to the kids, not nice to us. Everyone's like, "What's up with her? What's her problem?"
Right.
I walk out to get my skates and said, "Man, I had a bad day like that once too." And that demeanor of hers
No.
went like, "Oh, he sees me. He sees another ticket agent, but he said I had a bad day. Yeah, I know I had a bad day. Tell me about it." So we shut up for a few seconds. The rest of the day, she was helping people out, doing things. It was amazing. The fictional one's more powerful than mine, of course. There's a story. It could be true. I read it online, so you never know. But there was a man with like 3 kids on a train, and they're taking this long train ride, and the kids are misbehaving like nobody's business. They're running around the train, tugging on people, being noisy, rambunctious. And there's this lady sitting across them watching this guy and his kids. And the guy is sitting there oblivious, just sitting there, let the kids be just really rude. And after about 20 minutes, she couldn't help herself. She's like, "Excuse me, sir. Your kids are really misbehaving here. Something you can do about that?" He looks up and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I hadn't noticed. We're on our way to their mother's funeral." And when someone beeps at you, honks their horn, says something nasty on social media, disrespects you, whatever. Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm not gonna lower myself to your energy level of disdain or disgust. When people
Right.
flip me off, which happens probably weekly when I drive, I always wave back to them. I've never flipped anybody off. I always wave. "Hey, how are you? Have a good day. Sorry, I'm
Right.
driving too slow, or I cut you off by accident. Things happen. Nobody got hurt."
Yeah.
You know.
I
So probably it's the key thing is like, just not, everyone's got their own story and journey. You don't know 99.999% of it. So I treat everybody with respect and an open mind, open heart to, make them leave every conversation with the other person feeling better for having done so. That's the goal.
It's so funny. It's not funny. I love that you just said that because Leah sent me a message this morning.
Yeah.
Called Depths. It's a poem. It says, "I am an entire ocean, and this you fail to understand. When you think you can see all of me just by standing on the sand, you cannot tell me who to be or how to treat my tide when you've never even dipped a toe into who I am inside."
Nice. Yeah.
Like it just lends.
Right.
I love the synchronicity of all of that.
Yeah. And nobody is 100% good or bad, right?
No.
We all have good things. We have bad qualities. Nobody's perfect. So if we focus on conversations about politics are the most interesting to me because people are always arguing about stuff. I'm like,
They're so charged.
if you just set aside your beliefs and just ask questions about why they do that. One of my good clients, Ariel Halevi, wrote the book, "You're Not Moving Slow Enough, Key to Lasting Influence." And very smart, wise man, 140-person consulting company based in Israel, New York. And he's reading his own book. He's like, pretty liberal guy and whatnot. And, Israel had a big political upheaval recently. And he's talking to some people. And he's like, I'm going to go ahead and find out more about these guys I don't like, that none of my friends like. What's up their story? He went with an open mind, listened to them. And within about 4 or 5 conversations, he's like, these guys are making sense. And he's like, I might have been wrong about my belief system. I'm not really sure right now. I'm going to just keep learning. And couple of his family members are like, "You don't talk about that ever." Because I'm just saying they're making some logical arguments here. It's nobody's 100% on anything, really.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's been like in my existence, like I recently, well, it's not recently, it was last summer. I went to play some pickleball,
Yeah.
and there was a new person. I'd never seen her. She introduced herself, and this was our conversation. It was shocking and jarring to me
Yeah.
because she said, "Oh, I came here. My husband works here like 2 weeks out of a month. We live in Colorado. Blah blah blah." Explaining why she's here, and she said, "I was playing one day, and somebody said to me, 'Oh, you're from Colorado. You're one of those libtards.'"
Oh,
Now,
nice. Yeah.
I
That's
was
right.
like, wow, that's how they greeted you to our community? Like, what the hey?
That's why.
And I'm like,
That's why right wingers get a bad name for shit like that. But come on, man.
right? I was
Uh,
like, I apologize if that's how you were that's how you were greeted and welcomed, like
yeah.
unwelcomed.
Yeah.
And we started into this conversation, and she just, kept sharing her thoughts and her beliefs,
Yeah.
which very much are different from mine.
So she is a
And
libtard.
Doug, I wasn't gonna say it.
I didn't say her
Very,
name. It's okay.
very different from mine. And I thought, do I just stand here and listen, or do I engage in
Yeah.
conversation? And
Right.
I thought, she said one thing, I'm like, now I've got to engage in conversation. And I
Yeah.
just said something, and she looked at me and she's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, how can you?" And she said, "Please tell me." And so we got into this most beautiful,
Oh,
like
good.
absolutely beautiful conversation.
Yeah.
And she said, she she was sharing with me at the end. She goes, "I took this class in college
Mhm.
where our professor said," and I'm gonna mess it up because I I don't know the exact word. She said, "You listen to people like you want to really, like you fully believe what they believe, and also like you're questioning your own beliefs." I'm totally slaughtering that, but I was like, mind blown. We come from these two totally
Yeah.
separate ideologies, and
Yep.
we had a really beautiful conversation. I didn't see her for a long time. I saw her a few months ago, and she's like, "Hey Jen, how you doing? We're gonna
Yeah.
play some pickleball today." And it's beautiful. So it's like it can happen, but you have to like you say,
Right.
step aside of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Politics are a weird thing. It's people say it's worse now than it was before. I'm like, maybe. I don't know. All I know is that you know, if you put everybody in a room and stripped away their labels and talked about fundamental things and not how to get there, we'd all agree on 80% of everything.
Yeah,
So just, leave out the politics of politics. Maybe just keep it on the, what's best for humanity. It might be a
right.
good way to
Well,
start a conversation.
and at the end of the day, we're all insecure. We're all confident in some things,
Yeah,
and we all bleed red. Like we
that's right. Except the aliens, that might be green.
really, you're going to bring that up,
I
Doug?
said that nothing 100%. I'm just giving you an out.
That could be a whole interesting conversation in itself.
Oh yeah.
Um, okay, so there's a story that I know that you've been very, very successful in business, and that you've also seen the flip side of that and
Yeah.
had things crash and burn.
Mhm.
And you also talked about a story. I've thought about this since your very first speech practice
Yeah.
in Bahamas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Some cold hard still. Are you willing to like share that? I
Anything.
just, for whatever reason, that just feels like it's a topic that wants to come up, or that
Yeah.
there's value in that.
Sure. So yeah, I'll give you the adult story here. So I did my degree in radio, TV, film, worked at a TV station, and Robert Allen walks in to be interviewed, and he's talking about real estate investing, no money down. This is back in the 80s. Yeah. And after the interview's over, I walk up to him and say, "Mr. Allen, I'm so impressed by your whole conversation on the show today. How can I invest in real estate?" Well, come to my high price seminar,
Right.
price, but it was like $5,000. I'm like, I'm making $3.10 an hour at ABC Cleveland, right? That's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Whoop, whoop.
So to his credit, he says, "Why don't you go to the library and check out one of my books?" I'm like, "I'm
Okay.
going to do that." I went to the library, checked out his book, and then I went ahead and bought it. I remember it so clearly. Hardback book was $12.95. No Money Down by Robert Allen. And I studied that book for a year, didn't do a thing. Second year, I'm like, I'm going to do something. I started investing in real estate. And mostly no money down deals. So I had a lot of experience with buying houses, apartment buildings. I did condo conversions, rehabs, office building, just about anything in real estate. I had 20 years of experience there. And one of my buddies goes to a stock options weekend boot camp, and 500 people in the room. They all paid about $5,000 to be there. And he's talking to the promoter afterwards. He goes, how'd this thing work? How'd you guys build this and all this stuff? And he got the business model from him. I said, well, they spent, $1 million in advertising, $500,000 expenses, but they netted about $900,000 or $1 million in 3 days.
Wow.
And so Chris comes to me and says, Doug, I just went to this thing. I went to the speaker, heard him do a spiel. You're a great speaker. You know real estate. Why don't you do this weekend seminar for real estate? And I said, I would, Chris, except those things don't work. He said, don't work? I saw the guy make $1 million in 3 days. I said, it worked for him. Did it work for all the attendees? It's because what happens with human nature is they all, get excited for 3 days and go home and do nothing. So he said, why don't you create something that works then? Challenge accepted. I went ahead and on a scratch pad, wrote down what I would like to see, what would work if I was in the audience. So I came back to my business plan, which was 10 weeks of classes, in person, homework, accountability, and nobody graduates until they actually buy a piece of real estate. He's reading my business plan and goes, whoa, this will work, but you're not going to make any money doing this. 16 people? I said, that wasn't the assignment. You said make it work. You didn't say make money and make it work. I'm like, well, I did it anyway. And I just doubled up on classes, did 2 classes a week and created a waiting list. And I got a radio show in Cleveland, in Chicago on WIND and then over to WLS, one of the largest AM stations in the country. And from that experience, I became a real estate developer, my own radio show. And boy, it was high cotton. Things are really rocking. About an airplane. Business is going well. And I did a weekend thing. And instead of teaching, I actually sold off in a complete condo complex and made about $800,000 in one night, not 3 days. I did it in a couple hours. So from that experience, I got a little bit cocky and did it 3 more times. And by the 4th time, it was 2008 and everything went away.
2008, that speaks volumes.
20 years of equity and reputation and experience was wiped out in 9 months. And during those 9 months, I went even more into debt trying to save things. So at the end of the day, I went from being a multimillionaire to having $54 living in the basement of my foreclosed home. And that's
a big shift.
It's a pretty big shift, be flying your own private airplane one day and next day you're actually recycling paper towels because you can't afford paper towels. I'll never forget that moment. Like, I don't have enough money for paper towels, but this one's still, I'll just dry it out. I dried it out. Sure. So that was a bad time. I went through clinical depression, divorce, and thought pretty seriously about taking my own life. And boy, it's a lot of people think about it for a second. Sure. I'm angry, depressed, and it goes away. But when that thought lingers for more than a few seconds, it's very dangerous. And fortunately, my ex-wife came by and took my firearm away from me. And but I didn't want to. I was back to the loser little boy. I didn't want to see anybody because I felt so ashamed that here he is, the guy voted most likely to succeed in high school was now penniless, broke, financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically. It was a puddle of goo. So it was really bad. I wouldn't have wished upon my worst enemy at the time. It was emotional trauma is, I'm not disrespecting anybody with physical trauma, not at all.
Sure.
But emotional trauma, I think the pain sometimes lingers more. Your body tends to know I'm going to heal most of the time, but emotional trauma is a weird thing. So I'm driving down the road one day, pissed off at life, and putting CDs in. Let me put Zig Ziglar in. Maybe he'll help me out.
Right.
Jerk. Here, Tom Hopkins. Let's put you in. Idiot. Let's put this one in. Oh my gosh. Jennifer, I'm listening to the CD. In 9 months of clinical depression, gone in 6 seconds. Like, I felt wonderful. I'm renewed. I'm like, my therapist couldn't do this. Drugs couldn't do this. This happened from this guy in the CD. Who is this guy? I go to push the eject button Didn't recognize his voice, right? It was me.
I would say it was you.
It was my goal setting CD I had created for my real estate students a couple of years ago. That guy was so happy and positive. I didn't recognize his voice. Who is this guy? It was me. So I instantly said, okay, I'm cured. I can see this was, I went to my past. I went from, riches to rags instead of rags to riches, right? But I went and talked to the rich guy again and listened to him. Oh, you can do it again. Most millionaires have been broke 2.2 times in their life. Yeah, okay. So I was thinking about how can I help others with this? Because most people it's rags to riches. So what if I could reverse what I experienced? What if I could create a voicemail from the future? And I created this whole interactive book thing, Jennifer. I don't know if I shared this with you before, but it was a way the person filled out a form online, and I captured their dreams, their goals, and their personality type. And then the software would create an actual physical book with them as the main person in the book, written in their own personality with their goals embedded throughout this book, picture in the back cover. I had 100% open rate, 100% like people are completing this book because, again, it's about their favorite topic.
Right.
And a voicemail comes in, a text comes in saying, hey, you're fat. Don't forget to drink water before lunch, Tubby. Depending on your personality, you can say, oh, you can do it. Don't forget to drink water. You're beautiful. Whatever your personality was, the texting and the book would match it.
Wow.
So I take this whole system. I get really excited. I'm thinking, well, I can make $1 billion with this. And I take it to some key influential people that I hadn't talked to in a while because went to my dip.
Yeah, sure.
So I got in front of a guy named Chet Holmes. And Chet passed away a few years ago, but he's a very well-known marketing guy and business turnaround specialist, whatnot. He looked at this. This is cute, Doug. I made a whole interactive book for him and whatnot. This is cute. What do I want with the $100 product? Why don't you go ghostwrite a book and charge like 20 grand? And I'm looking at this thing at 20,000 versus $100. Like, okay, all right. So I guess I'm gonna be publisher. So that's the long version of how I got involved with ghostwriting and publishing books for people. It was by happenstance.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm just in awe. I'm not even really sure where to go. Like I just appreciate the pieces of like, we can get out of hard stuff, even if, whether we're coming from a higher place, down to the lower, or we're just hanging out in the lower, that we can get out of it. And so I guess the question as I was listening to you that came to my mind was but you told it in the story is, again, what clicked for you in the inside that created that snap change? Not that as a sophomore it was a snap change, but
during one of my depressing moments, I was walking around and looking for a bus to run in front of. And it was a low point. It was like, okay. And here I am. I'm like pretty much devout atheist at this point. I'm like, for real. And, when you're at your very rock bottom, maybe, okay, I'll look up. Well, what about you? What do you got to say about this, big guy?
Right.
And, kind of a spiritual moment, that went through me. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry about the atheist thing, man. And I swear to God, if people talk to God or not, I don't really care. But I think what's the expression? I'm a he and he is in me, right? So it's like we're all together in this thing.
I'm a full-on believer of that.
So I'm saying, I'm so sorry. I was an atheist for 40 years, whatnot. And he starts laughing at me.
I say he's laughing.
He's laughing because he says, 40 years, that's nothing in God time. I've been around forever, because I'm a scientist. So I'm thinking, millennia of geological plate tectonic shifts and whatnot. So yeah. So he's okay. So that was probably the point where I guess the suicide's a bad idea. And it turned around. It's like, I didn't bounce back quickly. All the books about millionaires being broke 2.2 times, it's a true fact, but they don't say about how long it takes to rebound. Oh, it should be fast because you've made my first million. I know how to do it. I should be able to do it again. Well, I'm sorry, but real estate knocked the wind out of me. So I wasn't confident enough to get back into that in 2010. I got into publishing. I might still get involved with real estate, but I haven't yet. But it took me many years to get back to where I, airplane shopping again. And there's many, many, many years of living on a debit card and a couch surf for a couple of years. And yeah, it was not a straight path, and it wasn't fast by any means. Yeah.
I'm getting a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Okay, one of them is what do you love most about what you do? But before you get there, it's right here. I can read it. I actually would like the question and thought that keeps coming to my mind is, one, how long were you in this like lower depressive, you just like, I'm not sure how to pull myself out state of being?
9 months.
9 months. Okay. I think you did say that.
Yeah.
And then like, so you have this like, okay, smarty pants, God up there, if you really exist, like, and you have that moment of like recognition for you. How is it that you incorporate source, energy, God, whatever, someone wants to call it? How did you start incorporating that? Or did you? I'm assuming you did. Like, I know your heart into like what you started doing, or to pull yourself out of this space that you were in and get yourself back up.
Yeah, my answer actually answers both questions, the guest who wants to answer it and yours. And my wife says that I'm the most religious, non-religious person she knows, because there's a story. I love telling stories. There's a story about this village. They had this horrible drought for months and months and months, and people were on the verge of dying from starvation. It was really bad. And they finally got together and said, we're going to pray the special prayer, and we're going to pray for rain. And it's going to rain on the third day of the third week of this month, right? So they pray about it. They do their little, chants, whatnot. And they all go out to the fields the day the rain's supposed to happen. And this little boy walks up with an umbrella. And like, what are you doing with an umbrella? The sky's clear. He says, this is the day it's supposed to rain. And she calls me the boy with the umbrella because, yeah, I know there's bad stuff in the world. I know things aren't always rosy. But my gosh, if I have an imagination and creativity, which I and everybody has, why on earth would I use it for anything other than good and positive ideas? I have so many, my poor dear departed father was a wonderfully, probably the funniest guy I know, but he had this negative streak about him, which I just found amusing. He's like, he wanted something to worry about. What about what's going on with Russia? How about Taiwan? He was,
right?
Said, Dad, what are you worried about? You're like retired and stuff. He goes, I got to have something to worry about. And I remember from the other Dale Carnegie book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, is, worry is a complete waste of imagination. The little breathing exercise we did before this call, man, it was very powerful, very powerful. People should do that every couple of hours of their life.
Right.
It really makes a difference. So if you, understand how the mind works and how being present, then you don't have any problems right now. Anyone's watching this has zero problems at this very second, because you're here watching this. Now, maybe an hour from now, you might get a letter from a collection agency, or maybe a year ago, somebody, you got divorced, whatever. But in this second moment right now, you're fine. So live in this moment, and yeah, it just works for me. And in terms of the other question, I mean, anything else you want to expand on yours? What drives me was the question was what?
Just like how you used that like aha moment. I call them like when I'm talking, when I'm in spaces, not necessarily in spaces to the depth that you were, but moments where you're like, I just want to punch God in the face. And he's up there laughing. I say he's strong arms. He's got his head on my hand before, and he's just like letting me take punches and like, are you going to tire yourself out yet? Because I'm here ready to work with you when you're ready.
Yeah, no, I'm not mad at him anymore. I'd like, it's been on a long time. It doesn't do any good.
Right. Better to work with it.
Yeah, you've got to. What choice do you have? So yeah, the how I use it in business now is that when I talk to people and when I meet people, I always see the good. And if I don't see it, I'm going to ask about it and look for it. And if I can't find it, I'm going to help them find it. I have a person I've known for quite a while. First question you ask, how you doing? Oh, my back hurts. All this, like for years. How you doing? Oh, this is going on. It's always a negative response. So a little NLP trick here. I'm like, hey, Bob, what's the best thing that happened to you today?
Right?
They got to think about it, right? So I never ask how they're doing. This one person, I never ask. I always say, what's the best thing that happened today? And they had to sit and think because I'm not really wired that way. So hold on a second.
Right.
Yeah. Which goes back to your other listeners' questions, like, what was it? Why I do what I do, or how I do, or what was it?
It's actually Leah, and she says, "What do you love? What do you love about what you do?"
Oh, well, it's hearing people's stories.
But what's great about hearing people's stories?
Well, it's cheaper than HBO.
True.
True. I mean, I've heard some crazy, wacky, dramatic and traumatic things. I mean, a book we're working on right now is with a very high profile guy from Afghanistan who was there when people were falling off that airplane.
Oh.
And his story of escaping the Taliban, it's a nail biter. It's a nail biter. And I'm like, oh my, this is going to be a movie. And it's a big project, but it's like stories like that we don't all have, but listening to people tell it,
right.
You're crying. I talked to one of the women who lost her son at Sandy Hook and talking about love and forgiveness and whatnot. And boy, just listening to people speak, I'll never forget those conversations. And when it goes into a book, of course, it gets immortalized. So the reason I do that is because I love hearing stories, because no matter whether it's a bestseller or whether just one person reads it, if somebody else is impacted by you, and guess what? They are, then why not make it a positive one, or at least a learning one?
Yeah.
So we're not no man is an island. We all are affected by everybody. So you might as well do it in a good way. Right.
Don't you think also, like, I think part of the reason, and I think you probably would agree with this, is, we all want our life experience to have meaning. Like, we don't want all the crap we go through to just be crap we go through. Like, there's got to be some value to it. And I think that's part of what I love about listening to people's stories, is giving meaning to their life experiences, especially the ones that have been really challenging, and validating that, damn, that was probably really hard or challenging or terrorizing or super exciting, whatever it is. And then helping them, because they don't always see the meaning to it, and helping them see what that is, and being like, your life has huge value and meaning. And I love this idea of normalizing all of the life situations so that we can open doors for other people to share their stories.
Right. Yeah.
For me, that's part of the exciting part of what I get to do by way of talking with people, and whether it's like this or it's in the grocery line or on a vacation somewhere.
Right.
I love it. Okay, so what's next for you? I know you have a new, speaking of books, I know you have a new, like, sidearm to what you're doing.
Boy, I've been doing the book thing for 14 years, ghostwriting and publishing and marketing people's books. And it's gone up in price for years now, and really targeting the CEO crowd, because it's a 5-figure deal. And of course, everyone's up in arms, really excited about this whole AI thing. And I'm curious about it, and I've used it enough to understand how it works.
I'm like, well. I promise I won't rant right now.
I won't rant on it, because there's some things about it that I'm figuring out. And most people are saying, oh, I can write a book with AI, are creating basically Google. It's horrible crap. So we've been working on a way to actually integrate a person's story, journey, values, whatnot, and using AI as a tool, not as a book designer, right? So it's a little bit of an upside down what everyone's doing, but we're calling it Author Accelerator because the test that we did was so much fun. We're doing another one on May 30th.
I am interested.
Okay. We're doing one on May 30th, and I encourage everyone to come to this thing, and you can go to authoryourbrand.com/webinar and register for it. It's free. What we're going to do on this webinar is I'm not going to talk about my origin story or show you testimonials or any of that crap. What we're going to do is take one person from the audience and do what we did last month, which is I'm going to interview him. And during that hour, my entire team will be on the call talking. I'll be interviewing him, ask questions like you. Hey, Jay, how's the cover coming? up pops 2 different covers. Let's revise the font here and the color here. Okay, fine. Go back to that. Okay, talk to them some more. Okay, I think we got an idea for you. How about this title? Oh, these are good. How about this one? Oh, that's good. Okay, great. Talk some more. What do we got now? Linda, what's behind the curtain? And up pops a website with his entire thing on there showing him what his book is going to look like. Okay, keep going. Oh, here we've got a table of contents from our writer now. That's great. Okay, keep going. So during this webinar, I'm not going to teach too much. I'll teach a little bit about the fundamentals here, but I'm going to show you how quickly a book, a platform, a press release, a press kit, and in his case, we developed a database of 2 million potential readers.
I know that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I so wish I could have been on that call or been in the hot seat. Had I not had going on, dude, I totally would have done that. Especially after I saw what you did. I was like, what in the world?
Yeah. I'm so proud of my team because I'm just facilitating, asking questions. They're doing everything. Book cover. We voted, there was 50 people in the webinar. We voted on that cover and chose the best one. So I got it validated by an audience.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a cover I liked. It was one the audience liked. And not everybody, of course. It was like 6%. So we had the book cover vetted and validated. The book was actually written. And in this case, we didn't have time to put his stories in. So AI did do probably 80% of his book. In the future, it'll be about 50-50. AI helped create a table of contents and some fundamentals, where we're going to embed a person's story and personality in that process. So when it comes out, it takes longer to do this. It doesn't happen in an hour for a the way we want it. But for demonstration purposes, we did it all in 1 hour. Yeah.
It's incredible. You know how I feel currently about AI. I've been having conversations. I have been having conversations because I want to be open to how it can be of value in our world. And so I appreciate you sharing and talking about how you're using it as a tool for what you're currently doing. And I'm excited to see where this author accelerator stuff goes.
I was very much scared of it at first, quite frankly, because I had some people saying, I can write a book in 2 hours of this thing. I'm like, is that going to threaten my industry? And then as I'm reading I'm reading what's being created, I'm like, no, I'm under no threat. Michelangelo had no worry about Xerox. So it doesn't bother me because AI still can't create a soul. It can create content and pretty good content, but you ask it to write a story and it sucks. I'm going to say right now, if you help it with the story in the right way, with the right prompts, you can create some pretty good stuff, but you've got to have the human engineer tweaking the knobs and stuff. Otherwise, if you just let it run on its own, no one's going to want to read. No one's going to pay to read this stuff. You've got to actually know the right questions and do it in the right process so that out pops something that is compelling, interesting, useful, and entertaining.
Yeah. It's fascinating that you say that. I just was in a conversation with a fellow, again, from Colorado.
Yeah.
He grew up around here, though.
Is he a libtard or what?
No, I didn't ask.
Just kidding. Gotta have fun. Come
on. He was telling me about his job. He's like, I didn't want to grow up working at the site, which is a government lab. I didn't want to farm, and he didn't want to work at the religious college that's in that city. He said, so my only options were to move away. I'm like, pretty much.
Okay.
Because grew up in a little teeny blip on the map. I lived up there for 9 years. I loved it, but I can see growing up there, if you were trying to spread your wings and branch out, I can see why he did what he did. And I said, well, what do you do now? Software. Mm-hmm. And we got into a little conversation about AI, and he told me how I said, I'm curious. I know how I feel about it, but I'm staying curious. And it was interesting. He said, I use it for payroll purposes.
Yeah.
Because all my people can go and ask it to write these things for them, and they can put up blog posts or blah, blah, blah. And it takes a whole lot less time, payroll. But then I hear, I'm thinking, well, what are they actually putting out? Is the human element in there? I would be curious to see some of the stuff that his people are putting out.
Yeah. We're not going to avoid this. It's here to stay. It's only going to get more pervasive in our lives. So you can't run away from it. Thankfully, what you're doing with your experiential learning is not AI-able yet. Obviously, with virtual reality, it could be, if that everything kicks in at a higher level, it could be.
Right. I actually have been asked to help facilitate some things like that.
Yeah, it's I'm a big science fiction fan, so it's coming. I don't know if it'll be this decade or next, but right now you're safe with your experiential learning, no problem. You're good with that, and so am I, because I know that we're going to be using AI in the right way, and not lean on it so much so that we lose ourselves. And I'm not allowing any of my clients, students, anybody to produce crap. So I'm reviewing right now everyone's book. I'm like, no, I want more humanity in that one. Come on, go back and prompt it some more, or add your own stuff, or edit it more.
Gotcha.
Because if you just put out stuff that thing creates, people can detect it. And if they can't detect it, you don't want them as your client, because they're an idiot. So
right. The piece that you just said about humanity, like, I think that's the biggest thing. And actually, as you've talked through this whole last almost hour, that you've touched on what I do, and that's bringing people back to themselves, where they can find their answers, where they can find that confidence in themselves to then go out and do the things that they want to do, or they can learn how to love who they are. Oh, wait, first know who they are, then love who they are, and extend that out to everyone else. And, in my view, the world's a much better place when we reside here first. And it's one of the things that like I said, it's one of the things I love about you. I saw it almost immediately, whether you liked it or not. And I was like, there's something about this guy. And I just appreciate the heart to hearts that we've had, and just the influence that you have in my world. And I'm looking forward to a lot more with you, brother.
It's an honor. It's an honor. You're doing the right thing with your experience out there. So I wish you luck at that. Anybody's listening to this, don't forget, go to her page and get out to Idaho.
Get out to Idaho. We have an amazing women's leadership retreat. I wrote something down this morning. It's actually, I was thinking, a lot of times we do these things inside of conference rooms with crappy lighting and stinky air, and it's stuffy. And we're allowing an opportunity to use nature as our playground in our classroom. It's leadership in action, and you're not going to get it any other way. So go to therighteousrebels.com. Or reach out to me. We'll give you some information. This first trip is for women only. Doug, last thoughts and words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom
by Doug Crowe.
Believe in yourself. If you can't believe in yourself, give me a call, because I believe in you.
You don't need any more than that. Okay, wait a second. Did you give your opening statement right into the camera?
My opening statement?
You told me you had an opening statement. Oh, that
was it. You said live and unscripted. I thought it was gonna be a little more racy. I'm like, oh my God. I thought it'd be something more controversial. Like, hey, what about that?
You know me, Doug. I'm all about controversy.
No, you're not. But we should start that. I think it would get more views.
We could. It might.
Yeah.
It might. It would. It would definitely raise some ruffle some feathers, raise some dander. Racing, how do you say that? I don't know.
Whatever. But anyway, so just a quick disclaimer in case you watched all this. When I said libtard, I also could make fun of the QAnons too. So the extremes on both sides are just funny. So it's.
Yes,
I'm just joking. I like
it was live and unscripted, and we were just sharing conversations.
That's right. I make fun of myself more than anybody else anyway, so it evens out.
Right. Well, and you know what? If you can't make fun of yourself, maybe it's time to look inside.
Someone else will do it for you.
Someone else will do it for you. Again, words like butter. All right, Mr. Doug Crowe, thanks for being with us today. And we'll do this again soon. And for those of you who have been with us today, we just say thank you. We know your time is valuable, and you could have shared it in a lot of other places. And we appreciate that you shared it in this conversation. If you have questions or comments, please put them in the comments below. We'll answer them. If you also want to know how to get a hold of Doug and be a part of the things that he does, we'll make sure that we get links for you to be in contact with him. And then just remember, if you're not a part of the Righteous Rebel community on the Facebook group, head on over to Facebook, boink, hit the little, I think it's a blue button that says join, come be a part of that community. Go check out our The Righteous Rebels page. And there's just a lot of good stuff going on. We're growing. We make mistakes. We do it all live because we want to model for you that it's okay to make mistakes, and that you can keep moving forward and live in heart and be true to yourself. So with that, remember, be bold, be brave, be a rebel. We'll see you soon.